Hello, I am Peter Lee, the Newsbuds, China Watch. This episode, China Must Be Destroyed, starts with a look back, way back, to the 2nd century BC. There's an old story from Roman history about Cato the Elder trolling the peaceniks in the Roman Senate by dropping figs on the floor. The hook was that the figs were from Carthage, Rome's detested rival for supremacy in the Mediterranean. And the figs were fresh, because Carthage was only 3 days' sail away from Rome, and they were magnificent, because Carthage had survived its century of confrontation with Rome to become both bigger and wealthier than Rome. This displeased Cato the Elder, who wanted Carthage to remain an eternally submissive state to Rome. So, Cato ended every speech in the Roman Senate with the phrase, Carthaginem, esse delendam. Carthage must be destroyed. And guess what? Because of Cato's determination and the fig stunt, and I would expect the fact that Carthage was the main center of agricultural and economic wealth in the Mediterranean, not yet controlled by Rome, Carthage was destroyed by Rome in 146 BC. The Roman armies razed Carthage to the ground, sold the surviving population into slavery, annihilated its written culture, and Rome got a few more centuries at the top of the heap. Well, today it's cynicism, esse delendam. China must be destroyed. Instead of Cato the Elder, we've got Marco Rubio. Instead of figs, we got Huawei smartphones. And we've got Indo-Pacific Command thirsting for another couple decades as top dog in the Western Pacific. And we have increasingly open and unambiguous calls for the People's Republic of China to be destabilized, both from the so-called left and right wings of American politics, which are pretty much all right-wing now. The only thing missing, Mr. and Mrs. America, is you. Apparently, Americans simply aren't getting with the program and letting their opinions get shaped by nonstop threat-mongering by pundits, politicians, and the journos given the task of delivering the China threat message to ordinary citizens. In a January 31st op-ed in the Washington Post, entitled The China Gap, IR Poobah Dr. Dan Dresner noted that while the Beltway is, in his words, united in its perception of the primacy of the China threat, China, by one poll conducted by the Chicago Council on Foreign Affairs, only rated 8th out of 12th as a major threat by the public at large. What could the American public think was possibly more important than the China threat? Global warming, maybe? Income inequality? Intense social and racial divisions? Who knows? Dr. Dresner concluded, I do not have a definitive answer for why the American public is not exercised about China. Well, maybe it's because China isn't really a threat. It's an opportunity to line the pockets of the foreign policy and military establishment, while at the same time hurting the interests of U.S. consumers through a trade war. In other words, the gap is not between public and elite understanding, it's between public and elite interest. Just a thought. And maybe Dr. Dresner's bewilderment is a result of the same tunnel vision that caused him to support the Iraq War a while back. Just another thought. Well, these thoughts are brought to you courtesy of Newsbud and China Watch. We're not self-pleasuring armchair generals who've discovered the miraculous synergies of public policy and personal prestige and profit. We're trying to pierce through the hype, get to what's really going on, and get people off the lead balloon that the experts pretend is a hypersonic rocket to victory. Navigate to newsbud.com to subscribe and access this full episode, or rent this episode on Vimeo and then subscribe. We wouldn't mind. Join the best community of independent thinkers on the internet at Newsbud. 100% people-funded independent media. You'll be glad you did.